Yep, we've all been in this scenario at some point. It's as if we hit some sort of physical limit, no matter how much we keep playing more. Many players understand that it's important to practice things slightly out of your comfort zone for improving. However, I think there's another piece to that puzzle, and that's exercise. The key thing to understand is that a lot of motions used in this game originates from your forearms and upper arms. So a lot of these exercises will focus on that. For each exercise, I'll also include an alternative, just in case you don't own any of the equipment needed. Also, make sure you stick around to the end as I'll go over how you can implement this into a weekly routine. So this first exercise targets your forearms. This doesn't necessarily correlate to any direct movement to Nosu, but it'll help with your general finger strength. I have this hand grip strengthener that came with the set. It goes all the way up to 60 kilograms. Usually I do about 3 sets of 30 reps. You'll want to go as close as you can to failure with a lot of these exercises, so it's important to get a resistance that fits your needs and will increase in the future. That's kind of why my rep count is so high. If you don't have one of these, then any sort of squeezing motion until you really feel the burn in your forearm could substitute this. Hell, even a closed water bottle or whatever. Continuing with the forearms, we have wrist curls. These target similar muscles as the previous exercise, but it's a bit more focused. It's mainly used in a lot of movements requiring a downward motion. Place your arm upwards on a flat surface with your hand hanging off the edge like this. Place the dumbbell in your hand and continue with the curling motion. You can do about 3 sets of 10 to 20, really depends on the weight. An alternative to a dumbbell will be any evenly distributed, weighted object that you can comfortably curl with one hand. This is a bit of an extreme example, but you get the point. Reverse wrist curls are very similar, but probably more important in this game. These target muscles on the upper side of your forearm and are responsible for the extension motion of your fingers. This plays a role in finger control, dexterity, Ellen ability, and streaming capability. Like the previous exercise, place your arm downward on a flat surface with your hand extended off the edge. With the dumbbell in hand, curl in an upward motion. A similar rep range of 15 to 20 for 3 sets can be done with a lower weight. By the way, if you've been enjoying this video so far, feel free to subscribe and like the video if you want to see more content like this. The last forearm exercise is the farmer's walk, or jar holds, and it's by far one of the most important exercises. This targets your finger extensor muscles. This is where your main trill speed, Ellen, finger control, all that comes from. This is especially useful if you're trying to get into higher key counts and your finger strength just isn't up to par with your main 4K fingers. Find a jar that's large enough for your whole hand to fit easily into. You want to add some weight to it, but not so much that it makes this exercise impossible. Plastic containers like this are lighter than glass, so you can add more weight by setting up something like this. Insert your hand and extend your fingers against the rim of the jar and try to lift and hold for as long as you can. Because this exercise is based on time, start with your weaker hand and hold for the same amount of time with your stronger hand. The repetitions for this exercise could look something like this. Remember, it's important to get as close to muscular failure as possible, so if you feel like you can hold for longer, then you should, or even think about increasing the weight in the future. I know a lot of people might not have access to big enough jars, so another thing you could use is an elastic band. Simply just hold the band around your fingers and extend. And even another alternative would be to just use your own hands. Keep one hand's fingers stationary while you push outwards with the other hand. This may not be as effective as using an actual jar, but it'll target the same muscles to an extent. This next exercise is hammer curls. This targets the biceps and brachialis, both muscles used in patterns like jump trills, vibro, and forearm single tapping. Hold a dumbbell so that your palms are facing inwards, and curl from this position. Make sure your elbows stay level and you really try to isolate that bicep movement. If you have access to resistance bands, the same motion can be done with them. Any object that can be held from this angle could also work, but it may be hard to find something sufficiently heavy. Triceps are kind of involved in jack heavy patterns, but this really depends on your tapping technique. For this exercise, it's just a simple overhead tricep dumbbell press. With these, you can do about 3 sets of 10 to 15. You can also do these with resistance bands, or again, any object that you would feel is heavy enough. Now, if you don't regularly exercise, then I would recommend doing these twice a week. If you are more experienced, then you can up that to 3. Anything more than that might give diminishing returns, as you'll need rest days for recovery. If you really don't like exercise, then at the very least, do 1 or 2 sets of each exercise. Even if you're not quite reaching hypertrophy, doing any amount of exercise is infinitely better than doing none. Think of over the course of a few months, the difference the consistency can make. And hey, maybe you'll begin forming a habit of starting, and that can make it easier to finish through all the sets. As I mentioned earlier, the weight amount depends on what your body personally needs to reach muscular failure. So try different things and find what works best for you. You'll have days where your muscles feel sore and you'll be playing a lot worse than usual, but that's perfectly normal, and over time your overall strength will begin to improve. Oh yeah, and make sure you're getting enough sleep and protein, all that stuff.